Hi guys, welcome to the check-in. Or welcome back to the check-in if you have been here before. Throughout the last couple of weeks I've made videos on depression, life, sort of philosophical type thinking, relationships, and other bits and pieces. But today I would like to talk about balance and compromise, really. And I guess really this is mostly applied to relationships, in romantic relationships. For a relationship to last, any length of time, there's obviously, well, first of all, there obviously has to be some level of attraction between two people, and that doesn't just have to mean physical attraction. That can be emotional, just visual in terms of body language. And also, obviously, intellectual attractiveness. For me personally, I like a sort of a mixture of, well, obviously really the physical appearance is what drives two people together. And I say it more or less, and initially, and then beyond that, of course, there's all sorts of things like. Shared interests, shared goals, shared responsibilities to some extent, but also just elements that parts of both people that are very similar or a complete opposite. These are all fairly obvious things. But after a while, those things obviously still apply. Those things are still important. However, it takes more than just. I think if you base your relationship purely on attraction, it's not really going to work. Not in the long term, anyway. I think successful long-term relationships really do need a lot of respect, communication, trust, separation sometimes, definitely compromise, and a balance between developing yourself as an individual and developing yourself as a partner, because those two things are in some ways they're the same, but in other ways they're very different. Well, actually, first of all, really, even before you get into thinking about getting into a relationship, you should probably start. You should have worked on yourself too for a fair amount of time, and I think that's one of the things that's important to the development of a relationship is a constant growth in your own individual personal lives, and working on securing the glue of the things that keep you together. Once one side of the relationship starts to become too dominant or subservient, even, or weak, or it's just seen as not pulling his or her weight, that's a very, very likely. It's a very troublesome sign, because all relationships relationships that last at least a couple of years, if not decades, they require change, of course, and that will happen regardless of how much you try and prevent or stop it. But there has to be things that don't change within your relationship as well. And like I've said before, some of those things are things like trust or communication. Just enjoying the things that keep you feeling alive in your relationship. Relationships can become a little bit dry sometimes. They can become a little bit dry. They can become a little bit tedious from time to time. And it's at that point, it's in those moments where you have to decide whether you want to continue along down that road of that particular relationship or not. Because, like I said before, and obviously tolerance is a huge element within a relationship. Also, that's part of what compromising is about. What are you willing to tolerate? What do you deem as acceptable behaviour from your partner that you're willing to tolerate? Because there's obviously things in a relationship that you shouldn't tolerate, like violence, and a partner that is controlling, abusive, degrading, just someone that's just doesn't really have your best interest at heart, never did, or just doesn't anymore. Somebody who is not communicating with you, maturely. That's important. I think it's really without the ability to communicate in a mature way with somebody, that relationship's doomed from the beginning, really, I think. And obviously sometimes those things develop as the days, months, years go on, and sometimes we just fall into sort of these sort of magnetic, like circular structures of habits, and it eventually becomes toxic, really. As you know, in the end, we all have to decide what it is that why are we still in these relationships? What do we want from them? What was it really that brought us together? Do we have a plan? Is it because we can't function on our own? Do we feel that we're better people when we're sort of reliant upon somebody else, or are we actually better and likely to reach more of our potential as individuals? I think sometimes some people are more codependent on people, and that's why sometimes they get into relationships, and I'd probably say that I'm one of those people. Although I do like my independence, and I very much appreciate when I have time to myself. But that's more because of my own personality, really, because being quite an introverted individual, it's just I get sort of an energy boost really from just the silence, or just being outside, just being on my own. I like the interaction with other people, and obviously I love the interaction with my partner and my family from time to time, but there has to be space. I mean, even if you're not an introvert, I mean, a lot of extroverts might even say the same thing. Actually, it's not just limited to introvert. I think it's something we all need, regardless of our personality type or where we are in our relationships. I think it's just important in general to have some space aside from everybody else. And maybe some of that space is for you to develop yourself. And I'm not necessarily saying you have to go and, be wild and sort of go and relive your youth or anything like that, or go and jump off a cliff, 400-foot cliff, whatever. I'm not saying you have to go and, do some extremely crazy, wild, unless you want to, of course, activities to make you feel. I mean, maybe that is for you. Maybe that's what works for you. For me personally, it's a mixture of sort of learning, studying, doing some things that I want to do, and it's just the sheer act of the calmness, just the act of being away from people, for me is highly important in my life, and has been for a long time. That actually started when I was about 14 years old, and I used to come out from, but obviously some of that might just be because of my hormones, and we all know what those mid-teenage years are like, well, early teenage years are like. And I used to come out of from lunch, and there was like this little hill at the back of the school, and I used to just sort of just go there, just read, really. I used to just read sometimes, whatever it was. Oddly, it used to be the Bible, actually. Those were crazy years. By the way, I'm actually an atheist. But if you actually follow me on Facebook, you'll probably see from time to time I post religious stuff. And this is, you're thinking it's going off on a tangent here. But actually this is kind of relevant, because these are some of the things that make me me, and don't have any place in my partner's personality or interests. And I think that's important. It's important that we do have different things, because that identifies and shows to the opposite, that the other person, that we are different, we are ourselves. I think if you get into a relationship to sort of morph yourself into the person you're with, it's not a very smart approach to developing a relationship, because over time, if that relationship breaks down, or even if it doesn't, even if you just stay in it for however long, you're going to start to be, over time you won't recognize yourself. You have to remember that when you get into a relationship, one of the reasons that people get into relationships, and one of the reasons you should probably, is because you are you. Is because that other person, should do. They are with you because they like you, not because they want you to be a reflection of them. Although they're obviously probably, in psychological terms, there's probably some areas that are attractive in that sense, because we probably do attract people in some ways that reflect our own personalities, or it's more of a sort of deeper element of insecurities, and we're trying to find someone that makes us feel okay about those insecurities and our weaknesses, or props us up, makes us feel stronger people. That can be a positive and negative thing, but I'm not going to go too much into that. That's something that's quite a demanding topic, and I don't really have the time today, unfortunately. But I will I think I'll make a video about that at some point. But compromise and balance between two people is overlooked. It's very, very, without the ability to agree to disagree, or to agree even though you might not like something, or you don't actually want to do something, I think is important. But of course, it's about balance, and that has to apply to your partner, whoever it is you're with. It has to work two ways, and if it becomes purely one way, then you know when things start to go sour, because things start to become sort of a one direction, really, a one-way road. And it's at that point, I think, that you have to decide how much, what your life is worth, what your, self-esteem, confidence, self-respect is worth. Because sticking in a relationship that's not working, that's dying basically, is one of the worst things you can do in life, because time's so short. And it's not just that it's not right, it's not healthy for you, but it's also not healthy for the other person, because you staying in that relationship is just fueling that other person's rage, anger, domestic abuse, whatever it is that's happening, whatever it's going on that you're unhappy about or have been unhappy about for a long time. I've been in one of those relationships, and I've seen those relationships. They don't end well, regardless of how those people try to end it. They never end well. You need to, if you're in one of those relationships, get out of it quickly. If I was you, I'd get yourself out of it right now. Because people can destroy you, and sometimes you don't realize how much people have had an effect on you until years later. Sometimes actually when it's too late. And taking some of that, the more you tolerate abuse and dysfunctionality within a relationship, the longer it will take you to accept it, get over it, and not bring it into the next relationship. If you feel like you can even manage in a relationship. But that, of course, that's when you would need to seriously work on yourself. I'm by no means perfect. I've done things in relationships that I shouldn't have done, as I've said before. I'm not proud of them. I regret a lot of the things I've done. Not everything, but most things, bad things. Things that had consequences for myself and the person I was with, or the person I am with now. But what I have tried to do through those mistakes is to try to be more understanding, more compassionate to other people's emotions. Try to see things more from a two-way process rather than just my own. Try to push aside my own. Sometimes it's okay to be selfish to a certain point, but it depends on what that is. But ultimately, you have to be yourself, and sometimes you have to stand your ground. You have to make your points clear, and if something's happening in a relationship you don't like, then you need to say it. You need to be honest about it. And that's one of the problems I had in the past, is that I wasn't honest about how I was feeling. I tolerated too much shit, real fucking shit, and it just makes you miserable. It makes you feel worthless. And there's no point when you know that, okay, it might be hard getting out of the relationship, it might be hard to start again, but ultimately, eventually you're going to be hopefully better off in yourself, and maybe even that person that you was with, whether it's you that's broken the relationship, whether it's the other person, whatever, because nobody's perfect. We've all done bad things. We've all contributed to the destruction of a relationship in some way or other. Hopefully, eventually you'll get through it, and you will become a better person through it, and you've hopefully learned some things. Breakups are never easy. They're not really meant to be. It's meant to be difficult so that you learn and that you get through it. And obviously part of it's just a process, the very different stages of it. But this is not what this video is really about. It's just about, I'm in a good relationship now, thankfully. I'm in a happy, I'd say 95% happy relationship. Of course, there's times where I get frustrated and I get a bit fed up of things, but that happens in every relationship. And sometimes that's just because I'm just bored of I want to do something different, or really I just want to do something different with my partner. Let's go somewhere different. Let's try something different. Let's challenge ourselves. Let's do some of the things that we used to do. It's important to have a balance between the things that you've done over the years, but also to keep trying new things. I've spoke about that in another video. So yeah, so if you're in a relationship, remember that being compassionate, being understanding, being able to compromise. Excuse me. Being able to compromise and understand the needs of your partner is very, very important. And without those things, your relationship just won't work. And of course, I could speak for hours about the different elements of a relationship. Not that I've only been in two, but I've learned a lot over my last relationship, and certainly probably a lot more in this relationship, because I'm with somebody that's come from a completely different country, different language, culture, and so forth. But yeah, so I'll leave it there. Anyway, thanks for checking with me. Let's check out, and I'll see you in the next video. See you later. Bye bye.